They're the elected leaders most of us don't know, yet they have huge control on a very local level. Their election day is coming up. A win in court for a primary opponent of Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, as another GOP congressional candidate, hoping to use his ballot line as an insult to the president, plans to appeal his loss. Vaccinated Coloradans now make up half of COVID hospitalizations. That's a shift. It helps to have context. Fentanyl kills more Coloradans than any other drug. Narcan is making last-minute saves. We'll look at how the drug does it. And an athlete who turned his Marshall Fire losses into motivation. A lot of it. All that is next.
Tuesday is election day for some of the most powerful positions we've never heard of. Special districts, sometimes neighborhood by neighborhood. Marshall Zellinger looks into concerns from next viewers about how those elections are run.
Jim wrote us with a concern about his ballot in the Lyons Fire Protection District, specifically the voter affidavit he has to sign. When those voters sign their ballot envelope, they're swearing to these 4 statements. You know, you're a U.S. citizen and at least 18 years old. The first statement, though, is that you're a military or overseas absentee voter. That language is from when mail ballot voting was strictly for people overseas. Jim is not, and he wrote us concerned that he'd have to commit perjury to sign his name and vote.
I've had a lot of calls and I've talked to a lot of people to correct the problem.
Lyons Fire Chief Peter Zick heard about this from multiple voters. The fire district has posted on social media and its website that voters can cross off number 1, but either way, sign the ballot for it to count.
We had to correct it, so we put on our website, as you can see, that if you're uncomfortable signing it and it doesn't apply to you, you can strike out number 1 and then sign the ballot or bring it in.
We also heard from Paul in Arvada, voting in the Beaumont Metropolitan District. That's basically a special district for the Candelas neighborhood. His ballot has a number in the corner, 681. His envelope has 681 in 2 spots. He wanted to know if Beaumont is tracking who votes how.
So if there's any way that the special district is tracking that number to a voter, that could be a big problem.
Matt Crane is a former county clerk and now head of the County Clerks Association. County clerks have no control over special district elections. Crane called special district elections the Wild Wild West.
You know, we'd like to see them tighten up some of their rules around that to provide more integrity to the process.
According to the company that handles the Beaumont elections, the ballot numbers are used by the printer to tie the correct ballot to the correct voter. When they're received by their office, the envelope is checked for a signature. If it's there, the envelope is opened, the ballot is removed, and the tab with the ballot number is torn off. From then on, the ballot is anonymous. Going back to that Lyons issue, because of the concern, Lyons Fire District is also accepting ballots in person, 7 to 2 tomorrow and Monday, 7 to 7 on Tuesday. As for the signature, that is required on any ballot in any election, except in special district elections. They just look for a signature. It is not matched to your record to make sure it is your signature.
Fact of covering politics is that people are most likely to know elected officials that don't have a ton of control over their day-to-day lives.
Right.
Say president, vice president, that kind of thing. Least likely to know the people who are most likely to do things that impact their day-to-day lives, like all these special districts.
There are tens of thousands, hundreds of millions of dollars involved. In Lyons, this would add for every $100,000 to your home an extra $36 per year. So that's actual physical money that you know where it's going, and you could talk to these people one-on-one. Yeah. There are thousands of these special districts, Parks and Rec, sewer, water, fire. So these are the ones that really matter the most, the ones that you can physically see change in front of you and impact by having conversations with the people that are making those decisions.
And it's up to people in neighborhoods to do a lot of their own research on this, because it would be physically impossible for you to cover thousands and thousands right. of special districts. You're just one man. Marshall, thank you. Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert is still going to face a primary challenge. Some of her supporters failed in their court challenge to keep her opponent off the ballot. Judge says Republican State Senator Don Quorum did turn in enough petition signatures to make that ballot to challenge Boebert in the 3rd Congressional District, western southern Colorado. Some of Boebert's supporters tried to convince a judge that some of those signatures were no good, should be tossed. So Quorum's more of like a centrist, traditional Republican. He'll face off against Boebert in her more flame-throwing Trump style of politics on the June 28th primary ballot. Quick update on something that we told you yesterday was likely to happen. State Representative Dave Williams, Republican, is going to appeal to the state Supreme Court to allow him to use "Let's Go Brandon" as his nickname on the primary ballot as he runs for Congress. Let's Go Brandon, if you're not familiar, is the very unsubtle way that conservatives say F Joe Biden and find that to be clever. Williams is challenging Congressman Doug Lamborn of Colorado Springs from the congressman's right, and he's hoping that putting the insult on the ballot as his nickname will win him votes. He lost a court challenge to keep it on the ballot. I would like to recommend a piece of journalism that actually comes from another media outlet, but I really think is worth your time. There's a new Reuters investigation out today that found 8 examples of voting system breaches since the 2020 election. All those breaches were by supporters of former President Trump who had gone in there looking for voter fraud evidence. Not one found it. 2 of those 8 cases were here in Colorado. We have talked a lot about how the voting systems were breached in Mesa and Elbert counties. This Reuters investigation really lays out how activists in Colorado have been driving these insider attacks on election security. There's a link to the full investigation from Reuters on the next Facebook page. Nationwide, Moderna is now seeking FDA approval for its vaccine for kids 6 and younger, while in Colorado, our test positivity rate is still trending up. 5.9% of tests back positive over the last 7 days. So we're on pace to go over 6% for the first time since mid-February. Certainly, the scene inside our hospitals has shifted significantly. You have far fewer patients, primarily in the hospital due to COVID, than what we saw during our peaks. Also, though, for the first time since widespread vaccinations, there are about the same number of vaccinated and unvaccinated COVID patients in our state. Anusha Roy has some context on that.
We watch these numbers routinely, so it caught our attention when Wednesday there were 42 vaccinated hospitalized patients and 46 unvaccinated patients, a near even split. And then today, there are more vaccinated patients than unvaccinated, 57% to 43. There are a few reasons, though, that experts are not surprised.
With Omicron, many of those who were unvaccinated became infected and now have naturally acquired immunity. So the pool of people unvaccinated is now increasingly immune, of course, because they have had Omicron infection or perhaps Delta before that. And so we see a change in the proportions. So this is what we would expect.
Dr. John Samet with the Colorado School of Public Health says it's not a reflection on vaccine efficacy.
The vaccines are working because we have far fewer cases and far fewer people.
Well, you have to look who's in the hospital beyond who's vaccinated. I mean, do they have other conditions? Are they elderly? Do they have diabetes? Are they obese? Do they have kidney disease? I mean, there are a lot of factors to go in to who gets, and if they're immunosuppressed.
Apply that same thought process to these data sets. The state health department says it doesn't reflect a number of factors. Older people, even with vaccines, are also more likely to be hospitalized. And with near 80% of adults in the state considered fully vaccinated by the state, it's a much bigger group of people than those without the vaccine. So by sheer numbers, there can be more vaccinated hospitalizations. But when you break it down by age, a more apples to apples comparison, people without their shots end up in the hospital at a higher rate.
We don't know how long the natural immunity will last. The preliminary data is very clear that receiving a vaccine gives you a higher level of immunity than the natural infection.
So what is still being researched in both cases, right? Either you have vaccines or with natural immunity, is how long does that protection actually last? And it's really important to remember here that people are also being hospitalized right now for other reasons, and then they find out they have COVID. And so that's kind of a texture to this whole thing to keep in mind.
And I feel like that, Anusha, was one of the lessons that we learned along the way between the what is happening, the pure numbers, and the why is it happening. Like when we realized with the less serious variants that there were a lot of people who just had COVID that were in the hospital for something else. This is another thing that just needs a bit more context.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when you look at CDPHE's website, their dashboard, right, hospitalizations have been such a huge factor here. But if you just take that main page just at surface level, it doesn't really tell you the full story, right? So you actually have to dig around on the website and then figure out how to piece all of that together to fully understand, you know, what is happening in our state.
Or get yourself an Anusha. That's another thing that people can do.
That's why I'm here.
You do it for us. Thank you, Anusha.
Fentanyl is in every community in Colorado. Thankfully, so is Narcan, more often than ever. We look at how exactly that drug works, allowing people without medical training to save lives. It's snake bite season in Colorado. How often they bite, and how often dangerous snake bites are successfully treated. And a cyclist who watched helplessly as he lost his bikes.
I was actually in New Jersey seeing my parents for the holidays when the Marshall Fire happened.
He turned that adversity into success on the international cycling stage, and he did it fast. That's next.
Coloradans are being asked by frontline healthcare workers and emergency responders to consider carrying Narcan, a drug that can reverse an overdose. Our Mark Salinger explains how that drug is able to bring people back from the brink of death.
It's so small it can fit in your pocket, but naloxone, or Narcan as a lot of people know it, can be a miracle drug for someone who is overdosed. It comes in a couple forms. It can be a nasal spray, or it can be injected into the body. Doctors call it an opioid antagonist. All that means is it attaches itself to opioid receptors and blocks the effects of the drug someone has overdosed on. We hear about overdoses all the time these days. They happen when someone ingests so much of a drug they become unresponsive. The drug overruns the opioid receptors in our bodies, slowing the speed of breathing and other vital functions. Soon, lips and hands start to turn blue. Within just a couple of minutes without oxygen, brain damage can start to happen. That's why time is so important. When naloxone attaches itself to the opioid receptors, it counters the effect of the drugs. Soon, it begins to reverse the impact of the overdose, but it must be administered quickly after someone overdoses. If it's given fast enough, the person can start breathing again within just a couple of minutes. They're coming back to life as the impact of the drug is blocked. Sometimes they can come back in a daze, often mad, scared, and aggressive as they're coming down from their high. But let's say someone is given naloxone by mistake. They haven't actually overdosed. The medicine has no effect on the body. It's a tool that fits in your pocket, powerful enough to save a life.
We know more first responders now carry Narcan with them everywhere they go, but not all agencies do. And even fewer actually keep track of how many times it's used. As we see a rise in overdoses, videos captured on police officers' body-worn cameras show how quickly they must revive people with Narcan or naloxone. We'll share a story tonight at 9 and 10 about how a deputy used Narcan 7 times last year alone, and one of the women he brought back to life.
Mark, we talk about how fentanyl, just one bad decision, somebody who thinks they're taking a pill, something else, can take a life. And I feel like Narcan's the flip side of that coin. That, too, just like that, can save a life.
It's incredible to see these videos where somebody is unconscious, for all intents and purposes they're dead, and they will die unless somebody comes in with that Narcan and revives them, and they just come back to life. And it's pretty incredible to see that second chance right in front of your eyes.
Hence the push to have as many Coloradans carried as possible. Mark, we'll look for that story tonight at 9 and 10. Thank you. As Colorado's venomous snakes come out for the warm weather season, this is a decent time to remind people that snakes are everywhere in our state. Bites are somewhat common, but snakebite deaths are really rare. Of the 20 kinds of snakes in Colorado, Parks and Wildlife says really only 3 are a risk to humans: the prairie rattlesnake, the western rattlesnake, and the Massasauga rattlesnake. CPW says the western and the prairie rattlers are statewide, basically anywhere below 9,000 feet in elevation. The Massasauga rattlesnake is out on the eastern plains, usually in dry grasslands and in sandhills below 5,500 feet. Rocky Mountain Poison Center told us they only know of 1 snakebite death in Colorado in the last decade. In terms of the number of reported bites, we average 48 a year, though that number has been ticking up. It was up to 62 last year. Typically, the first reported snakebite of the year is in March or April. None so far this year. CPW says the majority of the bites happen when somebody tries to move a snake or handle a snake, so don't do that. Wolves have not been spotted in Park County, despite what the internet has been claiming. What's seen in a video circulating is actually a pack of St. Bernards. Less terrifying, more hilarious. The YouTube video is shot from quite a distance, from 285 and County Road 5. CPW gave the county sheriff a heads up that this was circulating on the internet, and he knew right away what we were seeing, because there's a woman who lives nearby who has 10 St. Bernard mixes, and the sheriff says they have a history of getting loose. The sheriff says he could see how the St. Bernards look like wolves to people who don't really know either. Apparently these dogs have gotten out a handful of times, and last month they wrote a warning for the owner. This past Saturday, they fined her $200 for the dogs getting out again. When the internet video got loose, she admitted, yep, the dog's loose again.
In spite of the abundant cloud cover, temperatures way above average today, close to 80 in Denver, mid-80s in southern Colorado, all ahead of a storm that will arrive tomorrow, a storm that brings a little mountain snow and a whole lot of wind to the Front Range after a little bit of a break today. Some gusts to 20 miles per hour, but tomorrow, fire weather watch and red flag warning areas as we could see wind gusts over 50 miles per hour. Humidity values in that 10 to 15% range, so we'll take every drop we can get as we track isolated showers to the north tonight and a little bit of snow coming into the northern mountains tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, Friday's high will be cooler at 64. Wind will be the headline. Mild and dry for the weekend, then cooler with a chance for rain on Monday.
The Marshall Fire put lives on hold. Tough for a guy used to going quickly.
It was an obstacle. Like all of a sudden I had no bikes to train with, and I'm so supposed to start the racing season soon.
An athlete turned his obstacles into fuel and became king of the mountain. That's next.
Coloradan had spent a decade plus competing in international bike races. After he lost everything in the Marshall Fire, he just started training harder. Our photojournalist Corky Scholl met up with the athlete who came through the fire to be crowned king of the mountain for a day.
Yeah, it's like probably one of the best places to live, especially being a professional cyclist. My name is Noah Granigan, and I just got back to Colorado from the Tour of Turkey. So at the Tour of Turkey, I won the KOM jersey, which is the red jersey. Yeah, it's great. It's definitely the biggest result that I've had personally, but also for the team. It was really special, and you know, it's been a tough year. We've had a lot going on, and just for me, it was like life events with the Marshall Fire, and so we lost our home. Yeah, it was definitely the most stressful time of my life. So I lost all 5 of my bikes. Yeah, it was a really tough time, and just kind of figuring out what the next step was. It was an obstacle. Like all of a sudden I had no bikes to train with, and I'm so supposed to start the racing season soon, and it's like, all right, how can I get a bike? And so I was able to get back racing, but it's still, you know, really, really exciting to come away with a leader's jersey. Here's a great image of the whole team celebrating a really successful week. It feels, you know, like really proud of being able to do that, and you know, it was a big obstacle to overcome, and you know, I was able to triumph in the Tour of Turkey, and now I'm back in Colorado, kind of getting settled into a new home, and now I've just kind of got to look forward to the next race. I mean, yeah, sometimes life's just going to throw these crazy events, and you're going to get punched pretty hard, and just keep moving forward, you know. Stick to your goals, and I think it'll work out.
Noah and his girlfriend have moved into a new place in Superior. His next race is down in Arkansas in 3 weeks. Your feedback on whether we are enabling overdoses. Next. Wendy wrote into us during tonight's show to say that the use of Narcan simply enables people to continue using drugs. Wendy, I think that presupposes who might be saved by Narcan. I think about the parents who have written in talking about their teenagers who got a pill at school, took it, didn't deserve to die for one bad choice, and the parents who have written in to say their kid made the same decision and ended up alive because of Narcan. See you next time.